Good afternoon. Thank you for attending Building Your Brand. I appreciate the Office of Student Life inviting me to give this presentation. I am from Career Services. My name is Donna Washington. I'm the manager of career counseling for Lone Star College-Kingwood. If you ever need to reach me, my contact information is on this slide. Today, we're talking about building your brand, and these are the discussion points that we're going to cover. We're going to play a brief game. We're going to talk about what is a personal brand, how do you establish your brand, and then I want you to reintroduce yourself. So what are the first words that you think of when you hear these names? Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Michael Jordan, Beyonce Knowles Carter. So for Martin Luther King, you may think of nonviolence, holiday protests. Michael Jordan, I think of expensive, right? Those sneakers are expensive. Slam dunks, being the best at your craft. For Beyonce, I think of entertainer, wealthy. I think of hair too. She's always throwing her hair around, right? For yourself, what are 5 words that you think people think of when they hear your name? Just what you think. For me personally, usually the word quiet comes up, I think. Just hearing people describe me, that's a hint. And also nice, hopefully hardworking, hopefully smart, hopefully patient, for example. So think about what people think of when they hear your name. You may be wondering, what is a personal brand? I'm supposed to be building a brand, but what is it? Your personal brand is your unique promise of value. It's what you're known for, how people experience you. The brand is your reputation. It's about bringing who you are to what you do and how you do it. It's about making your mark by being yourself, your best self. And there's a lot included in a personal brand, right? We talk about reputation, but there are other things included within your brand. Your talents, your values, your strengths, your ideals, your experience, that all goes together to create your personal brand. Jesse Malton said, personal branding is the story people tell about you when you're not in the room. And that story will be informed by all of these things on the screen, because that's how they've experienced you and that's what they know about you. So your plan should be to try to figure out what these ingredients are for yourself and how you can best relay those to others. How do you establish your brand? So you want to start by being intentional, and you need to know yourself. In order to do that, you need to develop yourself, you need to market yourself, and you need to be consistent. So there's intentional versus unintentional branding that occurs. Look at the comic on the screen here. So there are 2 people, it looks like, in an office. One of them, I'm guessing, is the boss, right? The one with the green tie. The co-worker or the subordinate is coming. He says, I'm sorry, I'm a few minutes late for our 10:50 meeting. And then the boss looks at him and says, we'll have to reschedule because I have another meeting at 11. Then another coworker or subordinate talks to the same boss and says, reschedule? I'm only 10 minutes late. The boss says, tell that to my 11:10. So when you're talking about intentional versus unintentional branding, right? What are we learning about the boss? This boss likes to be on time. What are we learning about the people that work for them? They seem to not mind being late for a meeting with their boss. I don't know where they work. I can't do that where I work, right? You're usually early for a meeting like that. So we're talking about branding. Immediately, I would say this boss is starting to give the reputation of, hey, you need to be on time for our meetings. You know how there are some people, if you're late, they'll kind of say, oh, that's okay, come on in, let's chat. Clearly, this boss is letting everyone who works at this company know you can't be late for meetings for me because I'm busy. I have other people to meet with, and we're going to reschedule. Whether you think that's a positive or a negative, that's something you should think about. But I feel he's intentionally stating it, starting his reputation and saying, hey, you need to be on time for me. Now, unintentionally, people who I guess are used to being late, they probably think, oh my goodness, he's such a stickler for time, but I feel like it's a positive because you're not wasting their time. But think about intentional versus unintentional branding. You could control intentional branding. And unintentional branding, you can't control that. That's just what people think of you. And I hope that you're taking control and using that in a positive way. So for social media, for example, the way that you talk to people, the way that you dress. Remember, you want to be intentional. You have control over your branding. And if you are unintentionally branded, I hope that it's positive. That's what you want. You need to clarify your purpose. Some of us have never thought of our purpose because we're just busy working or going to school or leading organizations. But knowing your purpose is very important. Clarify your purpose. What is the why behind everything you do? When we know this in life or design, it is very empowering and the path is clear. Jack Canfield said that. And it's true. So why did you choose to be a student leader? Why did you choose to join the organization that you joined? Because those are choices, right? And how do these choices reflect your purpose? I'm assuming that you joined an organization that fits around your purpose, right? If it's something like PTK or, being a scholar is important to you, why did you choose to join this organization? Why did you even take the step further to be a leader in the organization? Hopefully you made those choices based on your purpose. Now, how do you find your purpose? You need to start to discover your purpose by reflecting on the past. When was a time when you felt truly invigorated by a school or work project, an experience, or a role? You need to think about that. There had to have been a time at some point, maybe you didn't stop and think about it, but you were doing something you thought, yes, this feels great. I can't wait to get up tomorrow and do this again. What was that? What project was that? Were you working with people? Or were you writing a paper? Were you giving a speech? Did you help someone and then find out that they appreciated your help later? Think about those experiences in your past. You can't be everything to everybody, but we need to focus on your purpose and how will you fulfill it. Now, one way to learn about yourself is to use a tool that we have in career services. It's called the Focus to Career Assessment. And with this assessment, you just answer questions about yourself. There's no right or wrong. You're just getting to know who you are. As you can see on the screen, you can complete this assessment on your phone. You can complete the work interest assessment part, and it'll tell you kind of how you should lean in terms of a career, personality assessment, who you are when you're working with others, leisure assessment, what you do in your free time, values assessment, what's important to you. We're going to talk more about values later. And skills assessment, what are you good at? So really picking a career or knowing who you are as a person, you need to know all of these aspects of who you are. If you just pick one and you start making decisions, you'll be in trouble, right? So the goal of this assessment is to help you start figuring out what that purpose is and who you are. And that's going to inform your brand. We talked about knowing your values, right? Personal values guide the way we live our lives and the decisions that we make. A personal value may be defined as something that we as individuals hold dear. Those qualities which we consider to be of great worth. list your top 5 values. You can list them in the chat or you can list them just for yourself. But you need to think about what your values are. So if I had to complete this assignment, I'd say freedom or independence is definitely a top value for me. Trust, loyalty, creativity, authenticity is important to me. And knowing these values, again, will inform how you create your brand, how you lead your organization. When you understand your why, it will feel strange to do or say something that goes against your purpose or your values. I know you've all been there, right? You've had this experience, something just didn't feel right. Maybe you're speaking to someone and they make a joke or something and it just doesn't sit well with you, or you're doing something and it just doesn't feel right. Well, I've had that experience. I worked at a job once where I had to answer the phone for the boss, and teachers who were employed by this boss would call and say, hey, my paycheck never made it. What's going on? I need to pay my bills. And that boss told me to tell them that she was out of the office, or, oh, the money's on the way, or something like that, which clearly goes against my purpose, my values, everything. And I learned from that experience that I need to find another job. I did. And I will never put myself in that position again. It just doesn't feel right when you go against your purpose. That's why you need to know what your purpose is. Now, I want you to think about your own past experiences, okay? When have you been in a situation where you felt like, that's not right, maybe that doesn't align with my purpose? Make sure you never get in that situation again. And conversely, when have you been in a situation where you felt like, yes, this is who I am, this is what I'm put here to do, and then you want to create more situations like that? Now, you definitely need to develop yourself while you're working on your brand. Who you are is evolving, and that's a good thing. You want to increase, you want to grow, you want to enhance your skills. That's why you're in college. That's why you joined the organization. That's why you're leading an organization. It's important to develop yourself. And one way to do that is to create some transferable skills for yourself, okay? Transferable means I'm taking this with me everywhere I go. You don't just leave it on the dresser when you go somewhere. Transferable means I'm taking this with me. So transferable skills are hard skills and soft skills. Hard skills are learnable and presentable skills, knowledge and qualifications. So I like to say hard skills, you can kind of take a test for those, and it's easy, right? And you'll get a grade. If you know a language, if you're bilingual, you know Spanish, you're not going to not know Spanish at your next position, right? You know it everywhere you go. That's what we mean by transferable. You're taking it with you. So a hard skill would be a language, a degree. You're great with computers. You're never going to leave that anywhere. You're taking that with you everywhere you go. If you know software, programming languages, you know CPR, you know that. That's a hard skill. Also, soft skills are important. Those are character traits, personal, interpersonal skills. Those could be communication, your flexibility, self-discipline, time management, teamwork for sure, empathy. It's harder to kind of test for those skills. We kind of call those soft skills. There are other ones too, negotiation, problem solving, your emotional intelligence. Which ones do you think are important? Which ones are the most important, you think? The answer is you need both. One isn't more important than the other, because if you have all the hard skills in the world, but you don't have the soft skills, there's going to be a problem. And conversely, if you have all the soft skills, but you don't have any hard skills, you're going to have a problem as a leader. We want you to get into that sweet spot. Notice that drawing on the screen. That's a combination of both soft skills and hard skills. You need to figure out what your unique combination of hard and soft skills will be in order to be the best leader you can be. Now, also to establish your brand, you need to market yourself. I know you're on social media. I know you use it for different things. I know you have a personal page. You might have a page for your organization, or you're thinking about starting one, but you need to be intentional about your branding. What would I see on your social media pages now? Last year, I talked about this topic, and people were nervous. They were physically nervous when I mentioned their pages, their Facebook or their Instagram, and how I might have taken a peek at them. They started getting nervous. If you get nervous with the thought of someone looking at your social media, that should let you know that you need to clean it up. Do the images and posts on your social media help or hinder your brand? You need to think about that. I want you to think about that before you post. But since you just met me, let's think about what's there now and how we can fix it. If you're starting a social media page for your organization, you also need to be careful. What is the brand for your organization? This is a fun page, okay. Intellectual page, okay. You need to think about that marketing. But you need to be careful also about unprofessional behavior, showing that on your page. Drinking, drug use, criminal behavior, politics, very touchy subject, especially the day after election day, right? Religion, violence, controversial racial or gender views. So whatever you're putting on your page, remember, it reflects you. And we talked about being intentional about your branding. So consider the images and posts that are on your pages now. In terms of networking in college, you are doing it now. I don't know if you realize that, but you are. Any group projects, any chats, anytime you're posting in a discussion board on D2L, working with the people in your organization, recruiting for your organization, you're networking. So you really need to think about that, because you may encounter these people in the future. Maybe you'll be in the position where someone you used to go to college with needs a job or a recommendation or something. Then you'll think about them and you'll think of their reputation back when you knew them, right? Was this person a partier or was this person a serious student? And would you hire them? Would you hire them if they had a reputation of just thinking about partying and had bad grades? Probably not. But the serious student, you might give them more of a chance, right? Think about that the other way around. Maybe you need a recommendation or you need a job. What is the reputation that you left this person with when you worked together in college? You need to think about that now. There is a gentleman named Isaac Sirwango. He specializes in talking about networking in college. And he's very good at it. We're going to talk about his book later on in this presentation. But we were talking about marketing earlier, right? And how social media is so important for starting your brand and how people see you. Look at this picture right here. This is just a screenshot from his YouTube video. You want to talk about marketing? Look at his shirt. Inform and inspire. We already know something about him, don't we? He's on YouTube discussing networking. In a TED Talk, by the way. That tells me something. Look at him. He looks expressive and happy, confident. He's such an expert on the field of networking in college. He wrote a book. This is what I want you to consider when you're marketing yourself or marketing your organization, okay? Remember that eyes are on you. Your demeanor and your dress are important. You don't want to be in a bad mood when people see you. You want to be positive. You want to represent yourself, your organization, your college very well. In networking, again, you need to market yourself well. We haven't heard anything he said, but he's already representing himself well. And that's what I want you to do when you're networking in college. Now, Isaac says there are 3 bones of networking. That's how he kind of breaks down how to network in college. The first bone is wishbone. For wishbone, you state what you want, and you try to figure out who can help you attain it. Easy, right? Jawbone. That includes competency and humility. Competency, you need to know what you're talking about. Have you ever heard someone go on and on about something and they don't know what they're talking about? That's a problem. You don't have any confidence in them. Do you know the mission of your organization, speaking of competency? Can you explain it to others? How do you recruit people to join your organization if you can't explain it? That's just one example of competency and how you need to know what you're talking about. And humility. People aren't going to help you if they don't like you. It's just the truth. So in terms of getting them to like you and kind of be comfortable working with you, you need to think of your relationship as a two-way street. It's not just, what do I want from you? What can I get from you? Thank you, and go away. No, it needs to be a relationship where you're both helping each other. You tell them what you want, that's fine. But you're trying to figure out what you can do for them as well. What can you provide for them? The third bone of networking is backbone, which is for persistence. You need persistence in everything, especially with networking, right? Because you're going to hear no, you're going to try something and it's not going to work, you're going to make mistakes. A lot of the brands that we use today, they were made because of repeated trial and error. You're just going to hear no, you're going to make a mistake, but you need to stay persistent with your networking. If something didn't work this time, okay, how can I change it and make it work next time? Is this not the person that I need to talk to? How can I get to the person I need to talk to, okay? So remember, all of these bones, they call it, from Isaac, and I'll show you a picture of his book in case you want to read that later. Now, another step to establishing your brand, you need to be consistent. What you do every day matters more than what you do once in a while. That's the truth, right? Because that's the reputation. That's how you build that up. Tim Salu, who is the founder of Mentors and Mentees, says your personal brand should follow you everywhere you go. It needs to be an authentic manifestation of who you are and amplify what you believe. With this in mind, your personal brand is not only a reflection of a series of job functions, it's also a reflection of your ideals, like giving back, thoughtful leadership, or mentorship. So you can't say that being on time, for example, is a part of who I am and is very important, and treating people with kindness is very important, but then you're not consistent with those ideals. And we know about the power of consistency, don't we? In our everyday lives. If you're consistent with your exercise routine, you know it pays off, right? You see the results, and you also know what happens when you're not consistent, especially during the quarantine. You need to be consistent. Same thing with your study skills. You know what happens if you're consistent with your study skills. You're ahead on your assignments, you're understanding everything, and if you're not understanding, you're going to tutoring. But you also know what happens when you're not consistent as a student, right? That's when you start hating going to class, that's when you won't do well on tests. You need to apply the same consistency to building your brand. You know how to be consistent, you've done it in other parts of your life. So you need to apply that to building your brand. Now, a leadership library will help you because you need to develop yourself consistently. We're talking about consistency. You need to read every day. And you're a student, so hopefully you're doing that already. But if you also took the extra step of joining an organization and then leading an organization, I want you to read about leadership. That's very important for you now and also for your future. And that's the idea behind a leadership library. I attended a leadership retreat a couple years ago, and the presenter for that retreat, he showed us a list of books that he felt were great for leaders to read. And then he said, okay, well, which books have you read that would be great for leaders? And we told him what we wanted to read. So I want you to kind of start your own leadership library. It could be something that you do personally, but it would be great if you shared it with other people as well. Then that'll help you grow your library. The books listed here, you can use these to get you started. Personal Branding for Dummies. Don't worry about the dummies part, it's just a great series. Never Eat Alone, Organize Tomorrow Today, and How to Network in College. We talked about Isaac's book, right? It's right there. And if you've read anything that you think is wonderful for a leader, let me know. You can put that in the chat, or you can just send it to me in an email. But I love this idea of a leadership library. You're trying to increase your skill set, right? Remember, we talked about transferable skills. You're developing yourself to help develop your brand. Now, we talked about personal brand, how it's your reputation and also what you believe. And hopefully these things will drive what you do and how you act. We talked about how to establish your brand. You need to be intentional and know yourself. You need to develop yourself. You need to market yourself, and you need to be consistent. Now, given all of this information, I have a question for you. What are the first 5 strengths, values, and skills that you want people to think about when they hear your name? What do you want them to say about you? Not what you think they say now. What do you want them to say in the future that you're working on right now? You can put that in the chat. You can think about it later. You can have this discussion in email. If I completed it, I would say finding information. I want people to know that I'm very good at finding information, hopefully that they need or that I need. Freedom and independence, I talked about that. That's very important to me. I don't like to feel restricted when I am trying to work or do other things in my life. That's why I'm educated, because you have choices. That can be a long discussion. 3, empathy champion. I feel it when people are struggling and they're having trouble trying to figure out how to do something. So that's part of why I'm a career counselor. Loyalty is important to me. Not just being loyal to people, but also receiving loyalty back. You will learn that as you get older. And creativity. I think of ways to solve problems that other people may not. So what would you list as you reintroduce yourself? Today's challenge for you. Yes, we're going to end this with something for you to do. What are you going to do today to work on your personal brand? We're not going to wait till tomorrow. We're going to start today. List actions that you will take today in the chat section. Those actions could be, maybe you're going to take the focus tube and then contact me to help you with figuring out what the results mean. Maybe you're going to reflect on past experiences to try to define your purpose. Perhaps clean up your social media. Hint, hint. Gain a new skill. Maybe you're going to read a book about leadership. But I want you to start today with starting to work on your personal brand. And then after you started doing that, I want you to think about, how will my brand influence how I run my organization? That's very important. You are the face. You are the reputation of your organization since you're a part of the leadership. So how is your brand going to influence how you run your organization? So if no one has any questions about building your brand, I just wanted to let you know there's some upcoming career services events. If you need help with the focus 2 part of what I spoke about earlier in terms of defining who you are, I am giving a presentation on Thursday, November 12th at 3 p.m. If you're interested in entrepreneurship, there's another presentation happening on Friday, November 13th from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Our LSC-Kingwood Small Business Development Center consultant will be talking to you about that. If you want to know about future presentations sponsored by Career Services, please visit the links on the page, especially the Instagram.com/LSC-Kingwood Career Services. If there aren't any questions, we will end the presentation. Thank you so much, Alex. You can contact me at kingwood.careerservices@lonestar.edu if you think of questions later. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Donna, for doing this. And I just wanted to say before we end this that we do have one more workshop coming up on the 19th at 12:30 as well. It is a self-care workshop with Titania Jackson. And again, thank you to our interpreters. Thank you to Leah for closed captioning. And thank you again to Don. And I hope you guys have a great day.